Everybody knows you should go draft Christian McCaffrey. Everybody knows you should go grab Austin Eckler. But if you actually want to find some running backs that can vastly exceed their expectations, you're kind of going to have to go out on a limb and maybe take a guy or two that hasn't exactly broken out yet, but for one reason or another, looks like he's in a prime position to do so in 2023. So I'm going to look at running backs that right now are being drafted higher than they've ever finished before in fantasy football and try to figure out, is this a fair price point for this guy? Should we be willing to take that risk and draft him in 2023? Starting off with Tony Pollard, who kind of already had a breakout last year, right? I mean, Pollard finishes the running back 9 in 2022, but he's actually being drafted now as the running back 7 in the second round for the first time we've ever seen. I mean, generally, Tony Pollard's a running back that you used to get in round 7, 8, 9, and you used to be excited about the upside on if Ezekiel Elliott were to go down due to injury, then Pollard could possibly be a running back 1. In the natural progression that we had in Dallas before Ezekiel Elliott left, is you had Tony Pollard taking a higher percentage of this overall backfield each and every season since he was a rookie. He's been on a straight ascension while Ezekiel Elliott's been on the straight decline. In this past season, Tony Pollard went out there and averaged almost 40% of his team's carries on a per game basis, as well as going out there and averaging over 10% of his team's targets. Now, that is an incredible mark. He's stepping into the prime of his career. If you're looking at the running back age model, this is typically where you are getting true league-winning running backs. And the reason why Pollard's being drafted higher than we've ever seen him before is easy. Zeke's gone. This is a team that last year had 531 carries. This is a team that had 2,300 rushing yards. It's a team that had 24 rushing touchdowns. And we know Pollard not only is going to get a large section of this rushing offense, but at the same time, he's a running back that is a phenomenal passing down option, as seen by his 3.5 targets per game this past season. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that Tony Pollard is going to have 530 rush attempts because Ezekiel Elliott's gone. Of course, that will never happen. I think what you're more so looking for is Tony Pollard going from about 12.1 carries per game to possibly getting to 14 to 15 carries per game and 4 targets per game. Now, if that were to occur, then Pollard could easily hit this mid running back 1 price tag where he's currently being drafted. Now, I don't know why I've had a hard time drafting Pollard. Like, to be honest with you, it looks like he is setting up to be a true league winner this next season, because if you look at the rest of this depth chart, you have Malik Davis, you have Ronald Jones, you have Deuce Vaughn. You really have nobody at running back outside of Pollard, and hell, he's getting paid a decent amount this next season to carry that workload. So, on paper, Tony Pollard looks like he should project to be a top 5 running back based off of what we've historically seen with this Dallas Cowboys offense, as well as the departure of Ezekiel Elliott. Now, partly because I'm an idiot and partly because I just have a very hard time buying into this being the exact Dallas Cowboys running back depth chart going into the season, I am hesitant to go all in on Tony Pollard here at this second round price tag. What I'm probably going to be doing is the teams that I'm drafting today, I'll probably be about neutral, maybe a little below average on Pollard. However, if we actually get to August, if we get to the beginning of September, and the Dallas Cowboys don't bring in Kareem Hunt, they don't bring in Leonard Fournette, they don't re-sign Ezekiel Elliott, they don't bring in Dalvin Cook, then at that point, I can tell you, I'm ready to go all in on Tony Pollard in the late second round with where he's currently going. Now, going over to the Jets with Breece Hall. Breece Hall actually doesn't necessarily fit this list exactly. He was the running back 8 from a points per game perspective this past year. Now he's being drafted as the running back 11 on Underdog. He's going directly after Josh Jacobs, DK Metcalf, Mark Andrews, and he's going back-to-back with Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, Lamar Jackson. Now, y'all know in these Underdog drafts, I've been slamming running backs in round 3. I mean, I would just way rather grab someone like Josh Jacobs or Breece Hall than I would Calvin Ridley. I mean, I'll be able to find wide receiver value a little later on. I think these running backs have running back 1 upside, because if you're going to look at Breece Hall as a running back that in a limited sample this past season averaged about 4.5 targets per game. This is a running back that averaged 11.5 carries per game. And this is including the very beginning of the year where Breece Hall was a rookie. So of course he wasn't getting involved as a true bell cow. And this is also including the game against Denver where he does tear his ACL and sadly does not get to complete the contest. So in reality, I mean, these numbers are a little bit skewed when it comes to Breece Hall. Like if you were to go through and kind of remove the first 3 weeks, those are the weeks where he has 6, 7, and 8 carries. Remove the week that he gets injured as well. You're looking at a running back that is going out there and averaging 4 targets a game, as well as about 18 carries per game. This is a running back that was an elite level prospect coming out of school. He gets the draft capital, and now you have a massive upgrade with this offense with Rodgers, who we have seen be excited to go through and check the ball down to Aaron Jones in years past. I think Breece Hall can kind of be the Aaron Jones plus for Aaron Rodgers this next season. So if I'm getting him in the 3rd round of underdog drafts, I'm going to be ecstatic about that. Now, of course, it will be a little bit dependent on where you're drafting, right? So if you're in your casual ESPN redraft league and you're going to have to take Breece Hall and he's going to start off a little slow coming off the torn ACL, maybe that's not a good spot to draft him. Maybe instead you'd be better off taking a running back that you think could start off hot, and then you could trade that running back for Breece Hall plus by the time we get to week 4. However, if you're in an underdog draft, say it's Best Ball Mania where it's a $25 buy-in, $15 million prize pool, $3 million for first place, and what we're trying to optimize for instead is weeks 15, 16, 17 for the fantasy football playoff tournament where those massive prizes are at the very top. That's where I want to be targeting Breece Hall. That's where I want to go out of our way and try to get him in as many leagues as I can. And of course, real quick, if you are not drafting with us on Underdog, I have literally no idea what you're doing. We are drafting there every single day until the season starts. It's best ball, so no time commitment at all during the year. Just in case you haven't heard, this is how I drafted over 700 teams and won $150,000 there last year. If you want to get in a draft with us, never too late, and go sign up with the link in the comment section, a link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you can get our 2023 fantasy football rankings at a free trial to flockfantasy.com with promo code FLOCK on Underdog. But now let's go over just some running backs that truly have never done anything in the NFL. Let's go over to J.K. Dobbins, a running back that, yes, I will admit, I was excited to draft in the 6th round last season, and it looks laughable because Dobbins last year was the running back 34 on a points per game basis. He averaged 11.5 carries per game. He averaged about a target and a half per game and only 70 total yards. Now, my thought process was, okay, I love the prospect coming out of Ohio State. We know this is a team that wants to lead the NFL in rushing. I'm not really a believer in Gus Edwards, so let's go ahead. Let's go all in on J.K. Dobbins, and clearly it wasn't a good bet because everybody who told us that J.K. Dobbins was not ready coming off the torn ACL was right, and I was wrong. Now everybody is all in on J.K. Dobbins this season, where he's being drafted as the running back 18. He's going directly after Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones. He's going directly before Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, as well as Damian Pierce. And you would think, Mason, come on, man. I mean, you were all in on Dobbins last year. You might as well go all in again this season. A little hesitant, to be honest with you. Because while, yes, if you're going to go ahead and pull up the numbers that you had from Todd Monken's offense in 2021, 2020, 2022, regardless of when it was, running backs were able to draw targets at a very high rate because this was an offense that was going out there to lead the NFL in overall passing attempts. Now, I don't necessarily think that Lamar Jackson's going to lead the NFL in passing this next season. I don't think that J.K. Dobbins is going to be at the very top of the NFL with this overall targets. But what I do think is I think this will be a more well-balanced team. This is no longer the Baltimore Ravens offense that wants to lead the NFL in rush attempts. I think you're going to have a more balanced approach, which I know a lot of people are selling that as a good thing for J.K. Dobbins because up until this point, we've never really seen him involved as a pass catcher, right? I mean, he's averaged 1.3 targets per game throughout his entire NFL career. And I would say, sure, it's a good thing. We definitely want our running backs averaging more targets per game than that. And the previous offense, Dobbins wasn't set up to see a decent target share out of his own backfield. But the primary issue is running backs that are running alongside rushing quarterbacks will not see a high target share ever. We've never seen it. It doesn't matter who you're looking at, whether it's Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields. These are quarterbacks that do not check down to the running back because when the pocket collapses, a typical quarterback like Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, Matthew Stafford, they have no other option but to check the ball down to the running back outside of the backfield so they don't have to take a sack. Well, Lamar Jackson can run it himself. Lamar Jackson can go and pick up the first down just with his own legs. And that's what makes Lamar Jackson exciting in fantasy. but it also does limit the overall target upside that Dobbins will have. So in my mind, I know a lot of people are selling the J.K. Dobbins offensive coordinator change as a good thing for his fantasy football value. I don't necessarily think so. I think that it's honestly kind of a bad thing. So if I'm in the middle of the 5th round, I would probably rather take Kenneth Walker, who's been falling. I'd probably rather take Joe Mixon. Hell, I'd even probably take Aaron Jones over J.K. Dobbins. Now, going over to our next running back, Cam Akers is everyone's favorite guy. I mean, literally every single live stream that I'm in right now, everybody is screaming at me saying, Mason, take Cam Akers. Mason, Cam Akers is Josh Jacobs this season. And I kind of understand why, right? I mean, I really like Cam Akers coming out of Florida State. I really loved him as a prospect. He had the size to be a 3-down player. He's a good pass catcher at Florida State. I mean, obviously he had all the high school pedigree in the world, and he goes 2nd round of the NFL draft. I mean, he checked a lot of the boxes that we were looking for. And the reason that a lot of people are excited about him now is if you're going to go ahead and look at how he finishes every single season. I know a lot of people are focusing in on what you had this past year at the end of 2022, where he has 23 carries, 118 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns, where he has 19 carries, 123 rushing yards, where he has 21 carries and 104 rushing yards. And this isn't new for Cam Akers. We've seen this before. I mean, going back to his rookie season, Cam Akers finished off there 21 carries, 29 carries, 15 carries, 21 carries. And then in the playoffs in 2020, 28 carries and 18 carries. We go back to 2021, right after the torn Achilles. He's going into the playoffs there for the Rams with 17, 24, 13, and 13 carries. Cam Akers, every year of his NFL career, has finished off strong. And if you're combining that where it's a running back that's finally overcome the torn Achilles, this is a running back that is finishing every season with promise, and this is a running back that was a strong prospect coming out of school, there are reasons to be excited. Now, I'm a little bit worried about Akers, and while I'll just continue to draft Dameon Pierce, who's the running back 21, compared to Cam Akers, who's the running back 22, is we really haven't seen Akers dominate and put up a ton of fantasy football points in a crappy offense. Now, I understand at the very end of this past season, yes, I mean, on Christmas Day against the Denver Broncos, he has 23 rush attempts and 3 rushing touchdowns. That was such an anomaly. I don't even know how to say the word, but I'm going to try just because it's the exact word to use here. I mean, this was a game where the Denver Broncos won 51-14. If you're going back and looking at the other stretches of where Cam Akers was actually good in fantasy football, it's when the Rams are winning. The Rams this next season have a team total of 6.5 wins. The Rams are supposed to be bad. Historically speaking, when the Rams are bad, they're not going to go out there and run the ball. Stafford's going to drop back to pass. Akers, sadly, has not been used as a pass catcher through his NFL career, where the man's averaged 1.13 targets per game in a regular season contest. So very similar to Dobbins, if Akers had a better workload as a pass catcher, I would be in on him, but I mean, I don't necessarily know if we want to go in right here. Now, going over to our next guy, we're going to be looking at Rashad White here. I mean, this is a running back that right now in these underdog drafts is being drafted as the running back 26, going to be in a very bad offense, very similar to the Los Angeles Rams this next season. The difference with White, however, is this is a running back that can actually catch the ball. He averaged about 3.5 targets per game this past season, and in the 2 contests, we got to see Rashad White with no Leonard Fournette. White actually succeeded. I mean, he went out there against the Seattle Seahawks and had 22 carries for 105 rushing yards. Against the Cleveland Browns the following game, he actually ended up with 9 receptions in that game. We know that he was a phenomenal pass catcher in college as well. Now, Rashad White is going to have a severely capped ceiling. Like, don't be sitting here and thinking Rashad White could be a top 5 running back in fantasy. It's just not happening. But if you are playing in a full PPR format, if you want just the running back 3 that you're pretty certain is going to get a decent amount of receptions because his quarterback in Baker Mayfield's not going to run. Baker Mayfield will check the ball down to the running back out of the backfield. So it'll be a team that is trailing the majority of the game, so they'll have a lot of passing attempts to go around. Be a fine spot to take Rashad White in that kind of format. If you're playing in a non-PPR league, you should have no interest. Now, James Cook, our next guy, kind of a similar story, right? I mean, if you're going to be looking at James Cook here, running back, that was the running back 57 this past season, really didn't do anything. Right now, he's being drafted as the running back 30 on Underdog. Now, if you're looking for a positive with Cook, he was a good pass catcher in college. And on top of this, this is a backfield where he pretty much is certain to get every single target out of it. I mean, right now, you have Damian Harris as the first and second down guy. I don't necessarily think James Cook's going to have a large workload on first and second down. One of the reasons why, if you're looking at those Underdog season-long player props, I'm actually going to be betting on the lower than 600 rushing yards for James Cook on the season. Obviously, he could also get injured. That's one of the other reasons. But nonetheless, I think if you're playing in a full PPR format, very similar to Rashad White, and you want a running back that's going to be involved as a pass catcher that maybe doesn't have the highest ceiling in the world, James Cook's not a bad option. Now, someone that I thought was going to be so overhyped in fantasy football drafts this year, and I wasn't going to draft him at all, is actually easy to get in drafts. Khalil Herbert right now is the running back 40 in these Underdog drafts. He's going directly after Zay Jones, Sky Moore, Jacoby Myers. I thought I was going to have to deal with Chicago Bears fans coming out and screaming, Mason, you don't know how good Khalil Herbert is. Mason, Khalil Herbert's a god, blah, blah, blah. I thought I was going to have to deal with it. But in reality, it seems like everybody's very realistic that Khalil Herbert may not be guaranteed the starting job this next season in Chicago. Now, of course, he's probably the starting running back. If I had to go ahead and put the probabilities on who the starting running back is in Chicago this next season, I would probably go about like 50% Khalil Herbert, probably about 30% Roschon Johnson, and 20% Deonta Foreman. But if you're looking at the cost-adjusted basis that you're getting Khalil Herbert for right now as the running back 40 behind someone like Jacoby Myers, I would love to take Khalil Herbert in round 11. Like, to be honest with you, I would probably rather take Khalil Herbert at this price tag than J.K. Dobbins at his. Just given the fact that with Khalil Herbert, it's priced in the uncertainty. He's also running alongside another rush first quarterback who's not going to check the ball down out of the backfield. But it looks like the fantasy football community kind of understands that when it comes to Khalil Herbert. And I don't know if they realize that when it comes to J.K. Dobbins. But let me know what you're thinking down there in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. If there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But yeah, if you want to get in a draft with me, we're drafting every single day on Underdog Fantasy. I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen us there a million times. Best ball, no time commitment at all during the year. And sign up with promo code FLOCK and they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you'll get my 2023 fantasy football rankings and a free trial to flockfantasy.com. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Really do appreciate you and really hope you have a great day.